Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Team Dinner. My name is Jack Maloney, and my guest today is Joe Fenti. Joe, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, man.
And today we are eating at Gufo, or we're eating Gufo from Cambridge Street in Cambridge.
It looks dope. Yeah.
So we have quite an assortment: pastas, meatballs, pizza. All for you, Joe.
Yeah, I think we gotta start with the pizza. I think that the basil on top's talking to me.
Margarita.
Yeah, that's gas.
That'll do.
That's gas.
That'll do. So, first question I like to ask here is, in the last few months, have you had a really great meal in and around Boston?
I had a great meal.
Something that sticks out.
I was at Nando's last weekend over in the North End. Honestly, my opinion about North End, you close your eyes, spin around Point, you're gonna eat somewhere good.
Yep.
But yeah, had like bolognese, chicken parm, the whole deal, and it was delicious.
What's not to like?
Yeah, what's not to like? It's not like I could even say which one in the North End is the best. They're all kind of the same, but in like a good way.
Yeah.
I
feel the same way.
It's hard to screw up pasta, sauce, and meat. Like, you know.
I know. I often think I've had Italian food that Italian people are like, oh, that's okay, and I've been like, I think it's excellent. You know? Like I think I'm like actually truly a bad judge of Italian food, because even the worst of it to me is still like something I would gladly take.
Yeah, it's all gonna be good.
Yeah. Would you say the North End is your favorite kind of eating neighborhood?
I'm actually not much of a foodie, to
Yeah.
be perfectly honest. Like, I love to cook, so that's usually where I have my dinners and my lunches.
Okay.
But if I have to, like, pick for someone visiting or something, that is where I'm going to take them.
Yeah. It's very unique.
It's very unique.
It's
I did just move to the South End, and my girlfriend and I, we have a new tradition. Every first Sunday of the month, we try a new restaurant.
Nice.
So slowly trying to tick through
like neighborhood spots.
neighborhood spots.
Nice.
Yeah, because otherwise, like, we wouldn't have
Yeah.
tried them if we didn't live there. So, like, all right, let's work our way out
Yeah.
and see what's going on.
I think that I am a big fan of like the neighborhood staples. Of places that they're not going to get written up in the Globe. No one's really talking about them, but like you are guaranteed to go in there, not wait in line, have a good meal, and be on your way. Now, the South End is a little fancy. That might not exist there. You might have to make a reservation for every place. But
Yeah, every place is well known or is on like a Google list somewhere.
Yeah.
There's no just like popping in anymore.
That I think COVID had something to do with that. I don't know if it's staffing. I do feel that the pop in is
Well, like the good ones stuck around. So the ones that weren't that good, that what you could probably pop into, are gone by the wayside.
Yeah.
If I had to take a guess.
Yeah. So how are you enjoying the South End?
Only been there 2 months, but it's great.
Yeah.
It's a cute little neighborhood. Truly, you're like 20 minutes from everything if you want to walk.
Yeah.
Like I had a show in the Boston Common. That was like a 20-minute walk.
Yeah.
I had to get to Fenway, 20-minute walk. Like truly, you can get anywhere from there. And that's like the biggest selling point I have.
Yeah. Do you have I think the one thing with the South End is parking.
Oh, it's awful.
Do you have a car?
I have a car. I've been towed twice.
I've
been towed twice. And I remember moving in, and my landlord was like, we have a spot in the back for $300. I'm like, no way am I spending $300 a month. I've now spent like $220 a month in parking tickets and towing. And my girlfriend was like, I think you should look into getting that spot. I'm like, on principle, I'm not going to do it. But yeah, it's terrible. There's a lot of like parking late at night and then waking up at 6 a.m. or like 7 a.m. to go move it when cars are starting to shuffle. It's brutal.
And then, the snow. You haven't had to deal with the snow yet either.
No, I bought my car in January of this year. So the snow's going to be a new, unwelcomed asshole neighbor.
Yeah. Well, I think the South End is great. I think I hope that you continue to rise, and that the the $300. I hope someone watches this actually and is like, you know what, Joe, I got a spot for you for free.
That'd be so sick. I don't know what I could give them in return, but I'll take free parking.
Just laughs.
Hell yeah.
That's all I want.
Hell yeah.
Cool. I think we'd love to kind of get into like, your story. What where you kind of came from. I think you are, from anyone who's watched you, I think it's very clear that you are of this place. Mm-hmm. And
to the chagrin of many Boston natives, yeah, I am from here.
Yeah, I was. Do you have? Because so I've been doing this for a very little time. You've obviously been in the public eye for quite a while now. You must have people in your DMs constantly,
always
critiquing you, telling you what's inaccurate.
Not even in my DMs, in my comments. Like, it's very public that they're like, "You suck, I hate you." Yeah, they don't let it hide. It's the same like 4 accounts too, and they're passionate. And I notice they do it on like all of my friends' accounts who kind of exist in the same space.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they're really just feeding the algorithm at this point.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're getting exactly who you hate, and like that's just TikTok doing a good job for you.
And they're promoting you further, right? Mm-hmm. So just keep enraging.
Engagement's engagement.
That's right.
Engagement's engagement.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like Howard Stern has that quote, I think, from like way back in the day, and he was like, if someone likes me, they listen for 5 minutes. If they hate me, they listen for 10.
Yeah.
Which is, I think,
no, it's true.
If you just keep trolling, if you just find like 10 people to troll, and you troll them, like it's going to juice your
I'm
video.
not even trying to troll these people. I'm just trying to make jokes. And like one of the things I did, like I've started the series where it's like, welcome to blank neighborhood in Boston.
Yeah.
So far I've done Seaport, because it was just so easy. It's so easy. It's like if Sweet Green were a neighborhood. So it's just so easy to be like, this place sucks. And then I thought about Southie, and Southie used to just be like the Goodwill Hunting, like, don't go here, it's tough. And now it's the hot spot for every like Emily and Ryan in who's graduated college.
Right.
So that was the angle I took. And I joke about how the old guys will hate you if you look like you went to college, and the young guys will hate you if you went to a rival college. So just everyone is hating you. And the amount of hate comments I get from random like Boston men, I'm like, you're fulfilling the bit.
Yeah.
Don't you get it? Like this is good for me that I can like take these whatever's DMs, messages, comments of them being like, this kid would get beat up at Biddy Early's. I'm like, I know. That's why I don't go to Biddy Early's.
Yeah,
I know what I look like. You know?
It's true, and God bless them.
Yeah,
I think,
it's adorable that they're on TikTok just to like hate as probably like 50 or 60-year-old adults.
Yeah,
I'm like, good for you.
Yeah. One thing I have found is in just doing this for just a few months now, is like people are so passionate about where they are from, and it gets like narrower and narrower, right? Like, so it's like Massachusetts, or like New England, Massachusetts, like Boston, and then like the neighborhood within Boston, and it's like, and like they'll fight you as soon as you step out of like the cylinder with them. Then it's like, now we're not on the same team anymore, right? Yeah. And like people are like truly passionate about where they're from in a way that like they want to like fight with you on the internet.
They're so territorial.
It's very territorial.
And it's weird because I'm not even claiming that I'm from there in these jokes. Mm-hmm. I'm just observing. Like, I lived in Southie for 5 years. I felt like I've seen enough to make jokes about it.
Yeah.
Like, well, you're not from here. I'm like, you don't have to be from somewhere to notice that everyone is angry and everyone is named Emily. It's not hard to pick up those details. You don't have to be from somewhere to get it. And we all have like stereotypical thoughts of like New York, LA, Austin. Like big cities have a reputation. You go there for 5 minutes, you start to see what it's all about.
Yeah.
And especially when like Boston's angry, people hate you. And then I get comments that are like, we hate you. I'm like, thank you for fulfilling everything that I've said, you doofus.
Yeah. So do you miss Southie at all? Or you feel fulfilled with that time?
I miss parts of Southie. Like, it was truly where every one of my friends post-college moved. Yeah. So it was great to have everyone around. But now I'm 28. We're getting to that point where people are I don't know, moving to suburbs or
Right.
moving into significant others, and you just don't see them as much.
Mm-hmm.
So that like texting on Saturday morning, what are we doing,
Yeah.
is no longer a thing.
Yeah.
Now it's like, are you free in
Like-
4 months?
Yeah. I know. I think I have a very good friend who bought a condo in Southie like years ago. I think he got a great deal on it, kind of like on a a 3-family. He bought the top floor and he's kind of slowly been renovating it. And he like loved it for the first 5 years, and now in his mid-30s, I think is very much feeling trapped. Maybe is the word.
I mean, dude, it's loud on weekends.
It's
loud on weekends.
time passes you by pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I Southie to me is. I would say Southie and the Seaport are the two neighborhoods I spend the least amount of time in for like the most opposite reasons. I would say
Interesting.
I would say Southie just because I feel like it's just not for me. As someone in his late 30s, it's just
That's fair.
it's just the vibe is not what I am after. Like I like to go to bed early.
Yeah.
And
If you don't have friends in Southie, there's
Yeah.
no real reason to go to Southie.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
my thought.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You go to those those bars everyone. What's the like Lincoln and Capo's
Oh
Basement.
my god.
Like,
Yeah.
I've been
College Central.
yeah, exactly. You go to those and it's like, okay, I get the point. I get why people love it, but it's not for me.
It's not even for me.
Yeah, right,
It's not even for me.
And
You age out of it so quick.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. I get like hangover just like thinking about it. Actually, the last time I went into that neighborhood was probably 6 or 7 years to drink in that neighborhood.
Right.
It was like 6 or 7 years ago. I was still living in LA.
St. Patty's Day parade?
Nope, just a regular Saturday night, and I
Okay.
had like a noon flight back to LA the next day.
That sounds awful.
I missed the flight.
Yeah, of course.
So and then I said, you know what? I think I feel good. Like I feel fulfilled with that part of my Southie experience. Now I'll go
Yeah.
over there for brunch and like to walk my dog on the water, and that'll be it.
Yeah, sounds about right. Actually, I take it back. I will go to Southie for Tom English's Cottage. That is my favorite bar.
Yeah.
It's just like this hole-in-the-wall dive bar. They have darts, pool, a jukebox. They have Keno and scratch tickets. It has everything you could want in a bar.
I love that.
And it's so perfect, but it beats you up.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
a bucket of beers is $20, unheard of in Boston.
Yeah.
So you get a bucket of beers, and then you want to keep hanging out because they have all these fun toys and gadgets for you.
Yep.
And then you have like 4 buckets later, you're like, oh, okay, all right, I'm
Work
old.
tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm old.
It's like adult Chuck E. Cheese.
It is like an old Chuck E. Cheese. Put that on your sign, Tommy is.
Yeah, and then I would say Seaport for the reasons of just I find it to be. I mean, I think you said it well. It's if Sweet Green was a neighborhood to me, it's it's people call it a mall. I think that's accurate. I sort of feel like the Seaport is like early dystopian. Like
It's as if AI made a neighborhood
Yeah.
for late 20s, early 30-year-olds.
Yeah, for
it's like what do people like? Lululemon and dogs and grass, but let's give them all of it in the same place.
yeah, right. Like if a Chinese AI robot made a neighborhood.
Yeah, kind of.
Like didn't fully understand like the culture of America. Like didn't
I
understand.
mean, it got the culture perfect.
yeah.
It got the culture perfect.
I guess that's.
Yeah.
I guess that is fair. Yeah.
There are people who unabashedly love Seaport.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
people like.
I think if you're self-aware and you love Seaport, I'm fine with that. If you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, this is
convenient.
as gross as it gets, but it has all the things I like.
Yeah.
Like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Go have fun at F1 drink racing.
yeah.
That's what this driving needed, drinking. Like,
Yeah.
I don't get it, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason to go to Seaport unless you work there or I don't know, someone's dragging you to Cisco.
Yeah. I feel like Seaport is you're paying New York prices for
Oh, big time.
none of the things that people like about New York.
No.
There's no, you're going going to Legal Seafoods for happy hour and Davio's and calling it a night.
That's kind of it, yeah. And you can't leave. I had to do so much research for that video I made about Seaport. Average 1-bedroom rent price is $4,000. There's only one public transit stop in all of Seaport. It's the Silver Line, and it's just like the bus one.
Yeah, it's just the bus.
It's just the bus, and I'm trying to think of the other points I had in there. Oh, there's 7 consulting firms in that neighborhood. If that doesn't say everything you need to know, I don't know what there is.
Were people defending it?
No one.
No one. Yeah, right.
Because it was built from the ground up in like 2014. No one has like, that's my neighborhood. Everyone's like, yeah, that's my office. I hate that place.
Yeah, it's true. My wife and I were just watching The Departed, and they go over there like several times. That movie's, 20 years old? It's not even that old.
Departed. Is that, the town's 08. I think, yeah, The Departed might be older.
I think it's a little bit, like a couple years older, but like mid-2000s-ish, let's say. So let's call it 20 years old. And they're constantly like in the seaport. Because it's like, it was like abandoned buildings, right? Like, so all those scenes where they're like on the roof and like where Martin Sheen gets like thrown off the building, that's the seaport of just like 20 years ago. And now...
In high school, I would go to the convention center every year for PAX East, the video game convention. And I remember our parents dropping us off when we were like 15 years old and like whatever. And it was just Barking Crab and the convention center. That was it. Yeah. And that's all you could do there.
Yeah.
So it was truly just business trips for us when we had to go to Seaport.
Yeah. Yeah. The circus. Did you ever go to the circus?
No.
Ringling Brothers used to be there too.
No way. They didn't do it in like TD Garden?
Ooh, too big of a bite.
Yeah.
I think that was later.
Okay.
Or I think there was 2 circuits. There was like Big Apple Circus and then Ringling Brothers. I think Ringling Brothers was the garden. Big Apple Circus there was just an empty lot out on the water, and they would just set up.
Because it's Seaport.
They would just set up a circus tent, and they'd be there for like weeks or a month, and then they'd move on. Yeah.
Word up.
The Big Apple Circus.
All right.
Well, I like that we are aligned at least on the Seaport.
If someone came to me and was like, I like Seaport, I would ask for a detailed list of why they like it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You know, I think my friend's mom, in high school, kind of like a very well-to-do family. The mom and her friends, for exercise every morning, would walk around you remember the Atrium Mall in like Chestnut Hill? It's like this old mall. It was like kind of a small mall. Their exercise before the mall opened in the morning, like the stores opened, they would open the mall, and women would do their exercise by walking around the mall. That was their exercise.
Oh, they do that in the Burlington Mall too.
They do. All right, so it's still a thing.
It's still a thing.
So when I think of the Seaport, I literally go back and I think of my friend's mom, and I'm like, if she was in her 20s, she would like to live in the Seaport.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And that is in my mind is my friend's mother.
Target demo achieved.
Is the archetype of who's moving there. And then I think people who love convenience, which I'm not mad at, right? I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to be like a jerk, but I think if you
I am. I am.
I think if you love convenience, and you like having a luxury building and a doorman, and you don't really care about character or anything like that, but I'm not going to be the one that makes that list for you.
I appreciate it.
All right, well, I feel like we're, I like that we see some of this stuff through the same lens. So I'd love to talk about kind of the early days of your career as a comedian, as a content maker. I don't like content maker.
Yeah, I say content person because I think it's just like I don't know. Sometimes the thing I'm making isn't anything.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. Creator sounds so fluffy.
I hate.
Yeah, I just say content person.
I'm just gonna say comedian.
Yeah.
You're a comedian.
Yeah. I try to lead with comedian, but people will always associate you with what they see you doing more, and I'm only doing so much stand-up or posting so much stand-up because I don't want to burn all of my jokes.
Yeah.
People are like, post more stand-up. And I'm like, no. Because one time I just posted a joke, and a week later I had a show over at Dot Tavern. And at the time, I phrased the joke where I would say the premise and then would ask, how is this possible? Knowing that the punchline was going to come in like 30 seconds. And some kid from the back yells out the punchline. And I'm like, are you kidding? So I had to basically come up with a new joke on stage, and I go up to him afterward. I'm like, did you just figure that out, or are you an asshole? And he's like, dude, I'm actually a real big fan. I thought I was helping. Like, how did you think that was helping?
Did the crowd laugh?
They were kind of like taken aback because it's a clever response.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And I'm
Yeah.
like, how did you know that? How did you know that was coming? And he kind of panicked because he thought I was going to, like, he said it with a smile.
Yeah.
And you can't tell when you're on stage if someone's chirping you or if they're on your side. Usually if someone's yelling, they're not on your side.
Right.
So I'm like, but I don't want to ream in because I'm like, you're engaged. So I had to be like, I panicked. I froze. And yeah, so now I don't post many of my jokes. And I think that's why so many comedians post crowd work clips. Is because you don't burn a joke.
Right.
And I don't know, sometimes crowd work is fun to be like, and then someone says something out of pocket.
Yeah.
And then that does the work for you.
Right. It's like man on the street stuff, right?
It's exactly like man on the street
you
stuff.
You just go out for 2 hours, you find 20 drunk people, and one of them will say something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you got
And
clip.
Yeah. Or 3 if you just get them talking.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean I think that is both nice. It's kind of sweet of that guy that likes you, and also like deeply annoying.
Yeah. One of my comedian friends, Dan Bolger, he has a clip that's really funny. Someone heckles him in a positive way. Like, he's rephrased how something could be said, and Dan was like, yeah, it could be said like that, but I didn't say it like that. He's like, a note for the crowd. Positive heckling is just as bad as negative heckling.
Right.
That'd be like going up to Anne Frank and going, you're hiding very well. I'm like, fuck, Dan, that's so funny. That's so funny.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, all right, we're going comedian then.
All right.
We're not calling creator. We're not using content.
Thank
maker. Comedian.
I appreciate that.
Hey, it's what you are.
Yeah.
All right. So in the early days, right, you graduate college, right,
Mm-hmm.
and you move to Boston, or you drive down the road to Boston.
Yeah, drive down the road. I went to BC, and yeah, so it was drive down the road.
You took Route 9 to
yeah,
Boston,
and I was right there.
Now you're here.
Yeah.
And I guess what was the early I've heard I've talked to similar people, right, who they post one thing as a joke, and it's like, oh, a little bit some attention, and then another one, and it's like, and then one thing leads to another. Like, can you kind of talk like that early period of your life where I'm sure you maybe didn't have the same expectations or whatever it was. What were those early days like?
Yeah, so it was December 2020. Everyone was cooped up because of COVID. I was super bored. And in college, I wrote for the satire paper called the New England Classic. Mm-hmm. So for 4 years, I was just thinking, like, what's an observation? What's a joke? What's an observation? What's a joke? And I was starting to have a lot of that being in corporate America because it was now my first exposure to it. I'm like, this is so silly. Someone needs to talk about this. But I was so nervous about putting my face out there. So I started with just an anonymous meme page, and I was making the memes every day. And I just started getting frustrated with it because, one, no one knew I was making the jokes.
Yeah.
And two, people would rip the good ones and just post on their account.
Right.
So then I thought, all right, maybe I should start mixing in some video stuff, but keep it super PG and just make jokes about what it's like to be in an office. And I had this idea of the intern who clearly had a connection to get the internship.
Yeah.
And my whole premise with him, I wanted him to be so stupid that he didn't even know what a dumb question was. Like, he was going to ask it anyway.
Yeah.
So the video is the boss going like, hey, Brandon, can you get me that Excel report by the end of the day? And Brandon's like, oh, yeah, dude. Yeah. But one thing, though, is Excel the green one? Like, he's so dumb he doesn't know not to ask that. And that one took off. I got 500,000 views. And I thought, all right, maybe videos is the way to go.
Yeah.
This is getting the response. So I just made like part 2, part 3, part 4 of that. And slowly started expanding out of like, all right, what are the things that I know? I know corporate. I know what it's like to live and grow up around Boston. And I also know how to write sketch comedy or like satire. And those are kind of the 3 pockets that I operate in. And I think March of 21, I fully converted to doing video content rather than memes. And what started as making a video whenever I had an idea, then turned into 2 a week, 4 a week, 6 a week. So by, I'll call it March of 22, I was doing 6 videos a week.
Yeah.
And always been a comedy nerd, always wanted to do it. Like literally in 3rd grade, I would memorize comedians' whole sets, just like from YouTube. And when the teacher would leave the room, just recite them in front of the class.
Yeah.
Just because I was like, this is so cool. I want to do this.
That's awesome.
And then I did a few open mics in college. Nothing came out of it because I was like, oh yeah, that was fun. But I just had that itch and kept wanting to do it. And then I got back in, and September 24th, 22 was my first show at White Bull Tavern. It was so sick. It was so much fun. I had like 30 friends come out, packed the place for like a 5-minute set. Yeah. The host was like, this many people came? I'm like, because I had to like pretend that I was a real comedian. Yeah. I'd only done 2 mics before that show. Yeah. And I sent her a tape to like show that I could do comedy, and my tape was me at a pregame my roommate and I were hosting, and in the middle of it we just said, everyone shut up, Joe and Connor are going to do comedy and they need to tape it so Joe can send it to bookers. So I just performed in front of 30 of my friends, not technically a mic, but I did 7 minutes of stand-up, sent that, and got booked because it looked good enough. Yeah. And so I put like 30 of my friends, which should have been a sign that I was too inexperienced. But, I mean, it went well because it was my friends. And then from there, it's been an itch I can't scratch. It's just so much fun. And my goal was always to do, like, one comedic thing a week, like, get on stage. And now it's, like, get on stage 3 or 4 times a week. That's awesome. And I know it's only going to ramp up more.
Yeah. How have you found stand-up in Boston? Is there a lot of opportunity for folks? You're finding that you're getting the,
big time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, because I think some cities don't have that, right?
Yeah, it's a growing comedy scene. That's like there's daily open mics, there's daily bar shows. If you want to get involved, it's really easy to start and get going.
That's awesome.
And there's like about 150 Boston comics, I'd say. I'd say 70 take it more seriously than the other 80, but you can get pretty pulled into certain pockets or certain groups within Boston comedy pretty quickly. And like there's kind of a vibe for everyone. Yeah. Like one of the newer groups is called Men in Comedy. They do only female, femme, or queer comedians. Okay. And they just have such a fun vibe. I've been in the audience for them. Like, you guys do such a good job booking your shows. And they found their niche of just like, we're doing not men. Like, we're not booking men. Like, yeah, you have a fun niche going on. So there's something for everyone in Boston comedy.
That's cool. And then are there any, I guess, there aren't a lot of like traditional comedy clubs though, right?
Yeah, not really. Yeah. It's just Laugh Boston and Nick's Comedy Stop. And now Little Chucky's or Little Chuck's, they just opened that up. But yeah, really only, I have no idea. Yeah. They like just opened 2 weeks ago. Yeah,
it's because it's a lot of places that have a comedy night, right? Is that fair to say?
It's very fair to say. Yeah. It's almost exclusively that.
Yeah, it's like you would think, if there was like one, or just like if I don't know. I guess I don't know shit about it, but like perhaps people don't associate Boston with a comedy scene because they're not seeing like traditional comedy clubs. I don't know.
I think people just assume it's only in New York and LA. Yeah, because that's where show business is. Right. They don't really know that it can be elsewhere. I think. So, I don't know. There's only 3 major clubs, really. Right. Otherwise, you're doing bar shows. Like, I started up my own company called Comedy Coop, where we just put on pop-up shows wherever they'll have us. And I've done shows in hotel lobbies, art galleries, bars, a suit store over on Newbury. Like, literally anywhere that will take me, I will do it. And yeah, people kind of like the underground vibe. It's very don't tell comedy. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Yeah. But they do pop-ups in places that shouldn't have comedy. Yeah. And I think people like being in on something.
Yeah, and so how do you let people know? Like an email list? You put it on social media?
It's all through my social. Yeah. So like I have one, Comedy Coop has one. Comedy Coop only has like 500 followers. I have how many ever I have. So like that's my main marketing tool. Yeah.
Cool. And do you have a lot of comedians that you work with at these things, like over and over again, like sort of the same?
Not over and over again. I do have my own rule where I try to book everyone I like once before I do repeats. Yeah. Sometimes I'm in a pinch and like people bail and I have to, go to the All-Stars and be like, hey, I need a favor right now. Yeah. Like I need you on the show. But I've booked maybe 14 or 15 shows. Wow. And like don't know, I think I've got a roster of like 50 or 60 that I've booked.
Cool.
So it's a lot of the people I've worked with and done other shows with, but I try to get everyone onto my show because that was one of the problems I felt when starting Boston Comedy. A lot of these shows kept booking the same people. I'm like, well, when are you gonna ever get new talent in there? It's hard to find it when you're busy. Like, if you don't go to open mics, you don't see the new talent, or if you don't go to the bar shows, you don't really see the new talent. But when I get booked onto these gigs, I try to like actually pay attention to people I've never met. Be like, oh, okay, yeah, you're new, you're good, all right, nice.
Yeah,
but yeah, there's like a rotation.
That's good. It's good. I think that, you know, I've been, especially if you know, you have someone who's coming to multiple of your shows, right? They don't want, like, my wife and I weirdly went to like three sort of small, like, at bar comedy shows over the course of like 6 months.
Yeah.
And there was one, and you know, different people, whatever. There was one woman who was at all three. Very, very funny. Yeah. She had the same 5-minute set at all three. You know,
it's hard to come up with new stuff.
It's super hard, right? And it's like, so when when we saw her the second time, we were like, oh, like yeah, and she did the same set. We're like, okay, cool. And then third time she did it again. And we're like, this is why I think, to your point, right? If you were booking the same people, they might only have the same, you know, if it's depending on how much time's gone by, right? Like, so I think it's also, I think, good for the person who's coming, right? To have always have fresh faces, always have new people to kind of get exposed to. So
yeah, and like I work the door at these things, so if I see people who are repeats, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do different jokes because I host and do comedy at all my own shows. And if I'm like, all right, you've seen that joke about dude wipes, I'm gonna not tell that one because I know you've seen it. So I have like 40 minutes to pull from. Some doesn't play unless I do other jokes, like whether it's a callback or something. But yeah, it's hard to write new stuff and like keep it tight and make it all flow and even just fit in.
Yeah.
Like, you can't thematically deviate too much. Like, if I'm doing a lot of jokes about like living with my girlfriend, I can't then throw in a random thing about what it's like to be in the office.
Yeah.
So like, how does that connect?
Yeah. And you're starting to travel.
Yeah. I had a Chicago show in September, Atlanta in October, San Diego and Arizona are coming up in November and December. Yeah. Chicago was so sick. Chicago was so much fun. They had me there for 2 spots on Saturday and then my headlining show on Sunday. It's intoxicating how much fun it was.
Yeah.
There was like 100 people there.
That's awesome.
I did 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is so sick.
Was that your first 40?
Yeah. Longest I've ever done was that show. And surprisingly, a lot of middle-aged women in the audience. Okay. I didn't know that was my demo, but I'll take it. They seemed excited.
Midwest middle-aged women.
Yeah, who would have thought? I thought it was gonna be like a bunch of me's in the audience, but no, it was like a bunch of like, could be my older sister, could be my mom. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, all right, hell yeah.
I like that. Well, that is exciting, and I'm pumped. Like that's the dream, presumably, right? I don't want to assume, right?
Oh no, it is. It is. This is what it's all for. Social media is definitely a way to fuel, so like stand-up comedy and getting people to just like care about me.
Yeah,
I thought about like people like Bo Burnham, who that wasn't his intention. He just wanted to make funny videos, and then that turned into performing them live. But I thought, if I can get people to care about me online, maybe that'll convert to like getting 5 or 10 people at a show, and it's proven to work enough.
Oh, it's great. I think it's great. By any means necessary.
By any means.
Right?
Yeah.
I think Ricky Gervais is an example. I think don't quote me on this, but I think he was in radio, and then he created The Office, which was a big hit, right? And then when The Office ended, he was, I think, same thing. Was like, I love making people laugh. He had never done stand-up, and then he was like, this is what I'm going to focus all of my energy on now. And he just went super hard at becoming a stand-up, and then he was all of a sudden like, you know, touring the world and all this stuff. And I think it's like, you know, it's very unconventional, right, to go that route, but he got to where he wanted to be.
Yeah.
Who cares?
And if you work at it hard enough, it's a repetition thing.
Yeah.
The more you get on stage, the quicker you're going to get.
Yeah.
And you'll learn those small things just by doing it a lot.
Yeah.
Or even asking other comedians, like, hey, can you watch my set and really give me notes? Like, that's where I get the best feedback. And one thing I noticed that I did, or one thing I was told I did, I was doing, oh my God. Every time I would finish a joke, I would drop the mic.
Yeah.
As if to say, like, I'm done. You
Yeah.
can laugh. And he said that breaks the, like, psychology of it.
Right.
Because now they know you're performing it rather than just saying it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be just like a storyteller comic, you have to make it seem like you're just saying it to them at a dinner party.
Yeah.
Rather than hitting the beats of a joke.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, never would have picked up on that if I didn't ask him for feedback or advice. But it's a rep thing.
It is a rep thing.
Yeah.
Life is a rep.
And now I'm like, all right, what am I doing with my hands? Where do I position myself? How do I... Now I think this is kind of my pose.
Okay.
Because I almost lock myself in.
Yeah.
But even then, I'm like, I don't know. When does anyone stand like this?
Yeah.
When does anyone do this?
Yeah. I mean, now I'm doing that. You got me. Now
But arms crossed makes sense because like this
Casual.
keeps them in place. But this, your hand,
you're holding the mic.
Yeah. I don't know. There's no good way. I thought hand in pocket, but then I'll gesture and I'm like, now I'm all over.
Yeah. It's funny.
Mm-hmm. A lot of little things go into it that you wouldn't expect.
Yeah, and so you have to watch yourself, right? It's like sports. It's like you got to break down game film after the game. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of comedians go up there with they record themselves.
Oh yeah,
right?
I voice memo everything.
Right.
Because if I do a new joke and it gets a pop, I'm like, what was the exact wording I did?
Yeah. And I think that's obviously like a huge part of it, right? But I would say, yeah, in this day and age, like you need to review the video as well, because all that shit matters.
Yeah, especially if you're a physical comic.
Yeah.
Actually, even if you're not a physical comic, if you're deadpan and you're just hovering over the mic, people need to see where your eyes are going, what your face is doing. There's so many little things that go into a joke.
And so, how much would you say, without revealing any of your material, from I think you sort of said the kind of buckets that you focus on, right? So is there a lot of commonality between what you've sort of put on social media and what makes it onto the stage? Or do you think that the stage is more maybe like who you really are? I guess, how does that kind of break out?
Yeah, this is one thing I struggle with. My stuff online is not very similar to what I do on stage. Mm-hmm. Because what I do online would not be funny on stage. Right. Like doing a joke of me putting on 8 Patagonias is funny online because you're like, oh yeah, I get it. He has this many Patagonias. But if I did that on stage, they'd be like, what's the joke? The joke is he bought this many Patagonias? Like what?
He brought these from home?
Yeah, I'm like, well, no, like I got these at work, and they're like, okay, we don't care. Like, what's the new angle? What's the new thing? When online, you can just go for relatability.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more relatable than being in an office.
Right.
I think, at least, because that's the life I live. It's a life so many people live.
Yeah.
And it's easy just to be like, isn't it crazy when you have a boss who sucks?
Yeah.
And people send that to their coworkers or their boss who sucks.
Yeah. So I guess that's a good. What if you had to break down like what makes a good office skit? Is it like the just ridiculous of the whole situation?
Yeah.
Like what would you say are like the tenets of a successful office skit? Because you've got so many of them now. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you ever sort of step back and look, but I'm curious your point of view.
Yeah, it's trying to find a mechanism to deliver something people already know.
Yeah.
So one video I had that did really well recently, it's just like what it's like to work in corporate. It's 2 people, 1 line each. One person says, oh, did you see how big of bonuses the executives got? The other guy's like, yeah, I can't wait to see what we get. And then it's always sunny cutaway, and it just says the gang gets laid off.
Yeah, that's very good.
It's consumable in that people know that execs are typically getting big bonuses, even when the employees are not.
Yeah.
And then it's consumable because people have seen the format of, and it's always sunny cutaway or a title card, whatever. So it's not a matter of coming up with the best joke. It's reframing something they've seen before, something they can digest in a way that just gets the joke to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you, when you put something like that, I've seen that skit or that you call it a skit or a sketch?
It's whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not particular. I know like SNL people are like, they're sketches. I'm like, sometimes they're skits. Sometimes they're skits.
All right, we'll call it a skit.
Yeah.
When you Do you know when you're making something that like, oh, I think this is gonna crush, or are you kind of along for the ride every time?
Sometimes I think this is an absolute banger and it doesn't hit.
Yeah.
And that It's Always Sunny one, I made in 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, I need to hit my quota. What's a joke? I'm like, this is good enough. I thought good enough. It's now hit 6 million on Instagram, 4 million on TikTok. I'm like, what? This? Really? I thought this was just like a throwaway one. So there's really no rhyme or reason in figuring out which ones absolutely pop off. But I feel like with certain confidence, I can determine if one will do okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a series where I talk to myself in kind of this robotic deadpan voice where it's like what it's like to work in corporate PowerPoints. And it's someone just being like, hi, can you please? And it's that sort of tone and cadence. One has not done poorly yet, and I've done it maybe 20 times. Right. So anytime I do one of those, I think it'll do well. But I also want to attribute it to like my writing because I do have to write the full script of like each person saying 5 lines and making sure one of the tenets of comedy I follow from the South Park writers, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, is to never let one person propel all of the story. So, like, a lot of times you'll see this in people who don't study comedy is it'll be one wacky character and one normal character who's just asking questions. Yeah. Like, what do you mean you did this? And then they'll answer. He's like, how did you think? Like, they're not propelling anything. So you have to phrase their dialogue in a way that gets that wacky person to say the next thing without just saying, what did you do next? Right. Why did you do that thing? So when I'm writing it, it's like, all right, what are the main points I want to hit from like this boss who's asking me to reformat a PowerPoint 10 times over? And what would be a response that listens to them and then also propels the story enough?
Yeah, I think that's very smart.
Yeah.
Do people must come up to you on the street and
all
be like,
the time.
like that skit struck a nerve. It's
that's actually not what happens.
It's not what happens?
No, not at all. People go, are you that guy?
They don't know.
No.
They're not like, you're the guy who made that skit that really resonated with me. They're just like...
That's maybe 1 out of 10. Is people be like, are you Joe? Or are you Joe Fenti? Or are you the guy that made that PowerPoint video?
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you for acknowledging what I've done or who I am.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 times it's like, are you that guy? And I gotta be like... Maybe because it immediately puts me in a lose-lose. If I say yes, I'm overly confident and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm that guy. I know exactly what you're talking about. But if I say no, I'm a jerk and I'm making them work for it.
Yeah.
Even though I'm like, you haven't given me any defining details about where you know me from.
That guy is maybe the... That might be the most disrespectful way to call it someone. Are you that guy?
Yeah. Maybe. Maybe. Or sometimes, dude, this happened to me at the Pats game on Sunday. Some dude was just recording me. And I was like, hello. And he was like, ugh. I'm like, you know you can ask, right? And he just goes, you're not mad, are you? I'm like, well, no, but there's a polite way to do what you just did. And then he hands me a sticker of Bill Belichick, and he just says his handle at me. I'm like, what is happening? So for the rest of the game, my friend and I were just like, you're not mad, are you? Oh, the Jets just scored. You're not mad, are you? People are rude, man. People don't know how to like deal with it. And if I ever complain about it, people are like, oh, well, this is what you signed up for. Yeah. Like, well, no, it's not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
I would hope that people could at least be polite and not point at me like a zoo exhibit.
I would say too, right? If you think like, so there's probably like to some degree people who they're familiar with you, but they can't put 2 and 2 together in the moment, right?
Yeah.
But still saying, "Are you that guy?" is not helpful.
But they could be like, "Hey, do you make videos on the internet?"
Yes. Where have I seen you before?
Yeah.
Would even be more reasonable.
Like, don't make me do the work for you. Even just saying you look so familiar, where have I seen you? It's not great, but it's better.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, then I can be like, oh, I do stand-up comedy. And then they can go, no, that's not it.
I guess, yeah. And I think there's also a thing, too, right, where like a guy, a guy probably is very, I don't want to say if insecure, but guys don't like to
Unsure.
Yeah, guys don't like to like put themselves out, right? And so guys like they think maybe they're conscious of it, maybe not, but like they don't want to let you know that they know who you are, right? So there's got to be some level.
This is quite
of
literally the whole premise of one of the jokes I wrote.
Really?
Yeah, I posted this online a few days ago.
I don't think I've seen that one. I think that there's I don't think that there's like a I think guys like they want to be cool.
Yeah.
And I think that by acknowledging another man to some degree, that's not cool.
Yeah.
I think
Definitely.
yeah.
But like, if you do that, I will put you in a way worse situation.
Yeah.
Because I'll give them 2 chances. I'll be like, I do stand up. They don't budge. And I'm like, well, I make videos on the internet. And they're like, no, I don't think that's it. And I'm like, oh, all right. Well, I'm an actor in court-ordered sexual assault training videos. Where do you want to go with this one, pal? Like,
Oh, that's good.
yeah.
And their wife is like, oh, fuck.
No, and then they're like, oh no, I think I've seen you in stand up. I think I'm gonna go now.
It was the second one.
Yeah, no, you're a stand up. Okay, bye.
That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's also like there's not a lot of, I think, so there aren't a lot of, I think, people who have really captured the Boston market like you. Right, so I in my opinion, right. So there's not a lot. I know it's a tough.
Yeah,
that's a
I
tough.
don't know. Maybe.
It's a tough.
People see them. I don't know if I've like cornered them or captured the market, but
I think what you're making is resonating with people here locally. I did put you in a tough spot with that question.
yeah, you think you're super famous, buddy?
Yeah. That was not fair.
Yeah.
My opinion, I think you have captured. In whatever way, shape, or form, because I have people from my life who follow you who haven't lived in Boston in years, but there's something that you're doing I think is connecting with them, and they live in California or they live in Florida or Chicago, right? So, so I think you're doing something that's connecting with people, and I think, you know, and there's other people who are doing it, but I think the list is very very short in my opinion. So I would say that is exciting, and I guess the question is, do you have is there a lot of opportunity to do like collaborations with other people? I've seen a little bit on your on your page. Is that something you enjoy doing? Is that something you seek out, or is it just kind of as it comes? Do you take those opportunities?
Yeah. So when I write, I love doing the multi-people sketches. I think they're so much fun, but they're way harder to write.
Yeah.
Because when you do like the corporate ones, the joke doesn't have to be that complex.
Yeah.
But when I do these sketches with like my comedian friends or content people wherever, I'm like, all right, what actually is the joke? What I want them to be a part of this because the joke I think is good. So my latest ones that I did with my comedian buddies, we did if guys acted like girls like guys. So essentially the premise is like, what if they did hyper feminine things in a hyper masculine way? What would that look like? Mm-hmm. And I think it's a little more, it takes one more step of like thinking than my typical video, which I'm like, all right, I enjoy this part of it. I get a real sense of accomplishment writing the script and like coming up with different ideas. And the other one, I've had this idea for so long and I finally put like the words together. Accidentally good scumbags. So they're like doing the correct thing, but for the absolute wrong reason.
Okay.
And the opening line, I thought of it and I'm like, this is gonna start it off hot. Where I go, we need to hire more women at our company. And then my friend goes, yeah, we can save money on salary. I'm like, it's such a quick mechanism to be like, oh, they're hiring them because they think they can pay them less. Wow, they are scumbags. I'm like, I was super proud to have like come up with a way to say that joke in just 2 sentences without spoon feeding like wage gap. Like,
yeah.
So collaborations are definitely available and they're around, but my big gripe is when I get approached for collaborations and they don't have an idea.
Yeah.
They're just like, hey, do you want
something?
Yeah, hey, do you want to collab? I'm like, yeah, I'd love to. Like, what's your idea? And they go, oh, let me think on that. I'm like, did you think I'm just like a well of jokes? I'm like, oh, finally, you reached out to me. Yes, here, thank you. Like,
yeah.
No.
They have to be a pretty big star, right? Someone would be like...
But even then, it wouldn't go that way. No one would reach out to me to be like, write me a script.
Yeah.
You know?
Ben Affleck's like, hey.
Yeah.
Hey, give me a joke.
Yeah, they wouldn't do that. If they were, I'd be like, yeah, no, I'll write that right now, Ben Affleck. I'll write that right now. So yeah, there are times where like there's other like corporate people or corporate content people in the space who like were virtual.
Yeah.
So that it'll be like, hey, if you ever come up with something, like let me know. I'm like, yeah, I can think about it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'll do 2-person sketches where I play both parts. I'm like, could this work better if I wasn't both?
Yeah.
And that's where I'll try to slot someone in.
Yeah.
So yeah, collaborations are definitely a thing. They're fun. Like I work with Everyday Maggie a lot. She's fantastic. Who else do I really like working with? Brian Kearney or Crying Burney, as he goes online. I love working with him. Narcolepsy Betsy, she's fantastic. And Adam Ladd, all good guys.
Yeah.
And gals. So yeah, it's available. But if you want to break in, like Brian reached out to me and now he's surpassed me. I'm so happy for him. But he started after I did. And he was just like, hey man, I want to get involved. Like, do you want to work together? And then we spitballed some ideas back and forth. And we came up with just doing like guys on Hinge by region. And it was easy enough, but I think it worked better because there was 2 of us.
Yeah.
So there were some jokes that worked better coming from him versus me. And he worked with me to come up with that idea. And it just made it that much better. It wasn't him trying to be like, hey man, can you like propel me? He's like, I think you're funny. Let's work on this idea that I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that is right. And I'm happy to hear that you know, these people that I see on the internet, right, that I think are funny, that you're working with, that they're good people, or that they're contributing. And so I think that is very exciting.
Yeah.
I guess one other question that I just kind of thought of back to, you know, when we were talking about like the anatomy of a good corporate skit, like what, as you think about a Boston-based skit, is there elements of that? Is it like the more local the better? Is there something that you've kind of found, like when you're sort of sitting down to write a Boston skit? Are there certain things that you want to touch on, or is it kind of an open slate?
My thought is I always want to write it from a place of authority. Like some of my gripes with Boston content is it seems like every 6 months I'll see the video of like pronouncing Massachusetts towns. And you're like, yes, I know Worcester is spelled very funny. I've heard this joke 1,000 times over. So if I write from a place of authority, I know that joke at least is a little bit more personal. So when I do the like welcome to Seaport intro or welcome to Southie intro, I'm like, what are the jokes that I think are funny?
I like that.
What is something that I've observed here? And even just in like doing the research for the Seaport bit, I'm like, this is insane that there's 7 consulting firms in Seaport. This is a joke. Let me write that in. And because the thread is what I think is funny, I think the video performs a little bit better because it's like, oh, that's the consistency.
That's right.
Is that he's writing for himself. He's not writing to hit the like park the car in Harvard Yard, blah, blah, blah. Whatever.
I think that's right. I think it would be disingenuous, right? Like I grew up in Cambridge, but I would like if I was trying to make like growing up in Boston videos, like that, everyone would probably see through that like immediately, right? Because it's like so incredibly.
You're gonna miss the little details.
Exactly, because it's a lie. Because you're just doing it because you hope you do something funny and people respond to it, right? And I think that's I think coming from that point of view is exactly right. Like you can't make a growing up in West Roxbury video because it's not you never did it. And it would be super disingenuous.
Even I look back, I did one where it was just if Boston guys were lines on the T. And I had never really ridden the Silver Line aside from going to the airport. But now that I live in the South End, I see more people who take the SL4 and the SL5. I'm like, oh, it is a way different crowd than I was anticipating. I thought this was just airport people. It is not just airport people. So you really do have to kind of like put yourself in positions to be like, oh, this is what the observation is. You know?
I love it. I think that's smart. I think that's really, really smart. And I think it's working because, you know.
Sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Hey, I think you're doing all right.
Thanks, Bo.
I'm going to take out this and I want to do that blind ranking I told you about.
Right on.
So this is a silly one.
Okay.
We've done a similar thing, but not like this.
How many items are we doing?
Yeah. So this is what we're gonna do. 7 items.
Mm-hmm.
They are neighborhoods in Boston,
Okay.
and then we're gonna go down, and I'll keep track of where you're putting them,
All right.
and you have to go 1 through 7, and you don't know the order.
What's cool is I know what's 7.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. In no particular order.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 neighborhood, Fenway.
Oh, I mean, it's a lot of college students living there, you know. I mean, obviously Fenway bars are fun, but they are geared towards college. But pound for pound, if you are a college student, it's a good spot. We'll put it on the good half. I'll give it a 3.
3.
Yeah.
All right. Fenway is
It's on
3.
the good half.
All right. Neighborhood 2, Beacon Hill.
Oh, it's so pretty, but so overpriced. And there's just, it's small. That's probably dead middle. Give that one 4.
4. All right.
Yeah.
3 and 4. All right. Neighborhood 3, East Boston.
I really don't go to Eastie enough. I know it has a lot of character. It'd feel like a disservice to give it on the bad side. But then there's so many left. Throw it at 2. It has great food. Throw it at 2.
It does have great food.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
All right. Number 4, the North End.
Oh, this is where I'm gonna get in trouble. This is where is that the best neighborhood? I don't know if it's a bad. What would be better than that? Financial district. That's nothing. Southie's cool, but is Southie the best? No. I've really dug myself. I guess it's got to be 1. Yeah, North End's 1. I guess it is the most iconic Boston.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
You next to the garden and everything. Yeah, I guess it's 1.
So we have 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, and 4.
Now we're in the bad ones.
No, so these three are screwed no matter what.
Yeah, they're fighting for the bad spots.
All right. Number 5 is Southie.
Let's give it 5.
All right.
Yeah.
Number 6 is Jamaica Plain.
Oh wow, I'm an asshole. It can't be worse than Seaport, so it's going 6.
And 7 was Seaport.
Yeah. Wow, JP being 6, that's a disservice.
I mean, that's the
part of the
beauty of
game.
these things, right?
Part of the game.
I was thinking of putting the North End because I think the North End is probably a lot of people's number 1. It's just it's so unique. It's so different than anywhere else.
Every restaurant's good.
Yeah.
Every restaurant's good.
It is. I think it is just a very.
Yeah.
It is a one of one kind of place.
I wish what the North End did more was like for the St. Anthony's Fair parade, whatever. They block off street and make it pedestrian only. I wish they did that more often.
I know.
It's built to just be pedestrian only.
I know.
Like.
I
And cars are going through it all the time.
Yeah, dude. I have a friend. When we go down, he drives.
That's insane.
Dude. I don't even like being in an Uber in the North End on a Saturday night. I have anxiety being in the back seat while someone else drives. Through the North End.
Who would have thought that road's built for cows and not
Yeah,
built
right.
for Cybertrucks, dude?
Yeah. You gotta go. Guy's got a fucking Ford F-250
Yeah.
trying to navigate. Okay.
Yeah.
No, so I almost put the North End at the end, but that I thought would have been specifically just to screw with you, and I didn't want to do.
Hey, that could have played.
Yeah.
That could have played. Yeah.
that.
Making Southie 1.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm living the bit.
Yeah. Southie. Well, I Seaport at 7. I think.
Yeah. We all knew it was coming. We all knew it was coming.
There was other ones Back Bay certainly, right? There's Alston, Brighton.
Oh, I forgot Back Bay. Yeah.
So I specifically
you left some out.
off. Yeah. I think there's like there's Roxbury,
West End,
West Roxbury. So
There's a lot. Yeah. You know when you just panic and you can't think of anything?
like every day. Of my life. every meeting.
My boss only has one neighborhood.
All right, and then I have one more. I think kind of show specific question, and I know you said you don't eat out quite a lot, but you do make. I think it sounds like you are sort of familiar with probably hopefully multiple cuisine. So I would say a question I like to ask people is, if you remove seafood and you remove Italian food, is there something you think, some type of cuisine that you think Boston and the surrounding area does really well? I think most people say those first 2, so I have to remove them.
Wow, yeah, no, you took off some of the big hitters, dude.
I took the easy ones.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I guess you could probably get pretty good Spanish and Latin food around in and around Boston. Like Eastie has a big
Very good
Latin
Mexican food. Yeah.
Latin presence. I think that's got to be your answer.
I think there's very good Mexican food.
Yeah.
I think there's really good. I think that's a great answer. I think there's a couple. I think there's like some really good Dominican food if you go up on the North Shore. And then my favorite, which is kind of a cheeky one, is I think that there's really good Americanized Chinese food.
Interesting.
It's like very
What's
niche.
your Chinese spot?
There's Zoe's in Somerville.
I haven't had that.
There's Changsho in Cambridge.
Okay.
And then I just moved to Medford on the Medford-Malden border.
Yeah.
And Malden has like 10. The Chinese food in Malden is awesome.
Really?
There's like Seasons Taste.
Yeah.
I think it's called. There's Ming's. There's a couple up there that Malden has Japanese, Chinese, Thai, Vietnamese. Oh my God, they have the Asian food.
They're really covering all of Asia there.
It's fantastic. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Okay.
If you are hankering for Asian food, get on the Orange Line or get in an Uber, get in your car, and go to Malden. Just get dropped off at Malden Center, and you can walk in any direction, and you will have a good meal.
All right. Actually, the all-you-can-eat sushi place in Medford Center, Nijia, slaps.
Yeah.
Slaps.
It's
like $24 a person, and they make it good.
Yeah.
Like,
the
surprisingly, you'd be like, Medford Center, really? Yeah.
You are literally the second person this week who's told me about that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's insane.
My barber told me about it.
Yeah. It's good, dude.
Yeah.
It's good.
He's he told me about it, and he was like, I go once a week.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ! All right.
No, it plays.
Yeah. So, well, listen. I think you've passed the two questions with flying colors.
Right on.
And I guess just to kind of wrap things up here, I'd love to just talk about we've talked a lot about where you've come the last 4 years, almost going on 5 years.
Yeah, going on 5.
And I appreciated everything you shared with me, but where do you I think the stand up, traveling more, like where do you want to be? Where are you going? Where are you going to be in 2 years? Where are you going to be in 4 years? Like, do you spend a lot of time thinking about that? And like, what is like still keeping you engaged, and what's where are you headed?
Yeah, I just love being involved in comedy, and however I can do that, that's where I want to be. Stand up, I think, is the purest form, so obviously I want to keep doing that. But if it leads me to like voice acting or writing, even just anything that keeps me in the comedy realm, that's what just gets me excited, and I want to stay there. So I don't really know what 4 years looks like down the road. We'll see, but I know that wherever it is, stand-up is going to be a big part of it, and if there's any ancillary routes of comedy, I'm going to try doing it.
That's awesome.
Hopefully that means more. I performed at the Somerville Theater, opening for Alex Borstein from Family Guy last Friday, and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be chasing that for a while, of like trying to do theaters or trying to do shows that have more than 100 people in, because I hit one of my earlier jokes, and like the pause I had to take to let people laugh, I'm like, this is the coolest feeling ever. And it's a part of a joke where I just like point behind me. Yeah. And I had to hold the point while people were laughing. I'm like, oh my God, it's not ending. This is so perfect.
Yeah.
Keep going. So yeah, wherever leads me to performing in front of bigger, more fun crowds, and whatever lets me do comedy in ways I haven't done it yet.
I love it. Well, I'm excited to watch.
Thanks, Bo.
I appreciate you coming in, and hopefully we'll have you on here in a couple years. You're on the road. You're selling out 5,000 seat venues.
It'd be sick.
It's all it's all happening. It's all happening. Yeah. It's all been it's been organized, and you're on the way.
I sure hope so.
Right on, man. Well, Joe, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming on.
Right on.
And keep our eyes peeled for what's next.
Sounds good to me.
Don't see no